All right, it's the Boxing Day Test match. Two legends of Test cricket are going to retire, Dean Elgar and David Warner. They are both playing at home, expecting a hero's farewell, and they are both playing in different continents against different South Asian teams. I don't think we could ask for a better Boxing Day, contest. The best part about Boxing Day Test is you just you're reeling in from like a lot of food coma, which I currently am under, and I have mutton that'll last me for maybe the rest of the week. And I also do not know or did not know what day I was waking up to, and that's how it's supposed to be. It's the most relaxing part of the year. I wish this week was on loop for my entire lifetime, but that's not the case. But it can get depressing sometimes. However, the best part about this is waking up at 5:30 a.m. and you're watching Pat Cummins stride in and bowl to Babar Azam or Rizwan, and that's till 12:30 Indian Standard Time. You take a break, have that leftover mutton curry, and then at 1:30 you're back and you're watching Rabada trying to take the bails of Rohit Sharma or Virat Kohli. So it's the best time. So the next 5 days, after Christmas, are just a bliss for any cricket fan. Let's look at the India versus South Africa match. Now, going into these tests, the popular belief was that the World Cup trauma could play a role in India's performance, but it's still one day versus test. And at the same time, they did demolish the South African one day team like it was nobody's business at Wankhede. So, and the last tour, to South Africa was not really in India's favor. So I also think that it produced more controversies than game time, or at least that's what I heard in the news. From the whole country versus 11 speaking into the mic and so on and so forth. So I am expecting a little bit of spice this year, and we already have some with our first test. So let's just get into it. India came with like a really good combination of bowlers and batters, according to me. I think our bowling attack looks the best so far in many years. Although I do know that, Shami wasn't included. We have Mukesh, we have Prasid, so we don't know how it's going to work. However, we have Bumrah, we have Siraj, we have Shardul Thakur, we have Ashwin. So I think we'll be fine, is what I thought before the test began. And rightly so, like the Indian bowlers, continue to perform really well. And lo and behold, we're surprised of the Indian batting unit that's been struggling. And this seems to be the case all around, across this whole test match. Like for the first thing, let's look at day one, right? And India will always be like my favorite team among the four teams that are playing. But this wasn't my favorite Boxing Day test match. And especially with India playing, I really did like a more competitive one, which was Australia against Pakistan. And to quickly summarize, like India seemed lost. South Africa looked really strong on their home turf. I think their team and the home advantage, skill and the home advantage plays a huge role. And Rabada yet again proved that he's the number one bowler, at least in the absence of Nokia. But even so, I think Rabada is just world class. Like his approach to the pitch and the game was completely unmatched. KL Rahul didn't shy away from scoring runs like from, against all the bowlers. We just witnessed 31 boundaries and 8 wickets. The vibe felt great, and the world enjoyed the Boxing Day Test match at Centurion and all the action in just 59 overs despite the rain. That was like just summarizing day one. India were put to bat and they suffered early. They were forced into 17 false shots in just 11.1 overs, which is expected to be a seam friendly condition. and but it was enough to yield three big wickets. Rohit Sharma caught by the only man on the boundary, and Shubman Gill strangled down the leg side, and then Yashasvi Jaiswal, who just nicked off driving, you know. So India were put into bat, and they suffered early, forced into 17 fall shot. India were put into bat, and they suffered very early. They played about 17 false shots in a matter of 11.1 overs, which is expected to be a seamer friendly pitch. And it was enough to yield all the three big wickets. Rohit Sharma caught by the only man at the boundary. I think that was just a genius move by Rabada. Shubman Gill was just strangled on the leg side, and Yashasvi Jaiswal just nicked one off. And the remaining 14.5 overs to lunch were just as hard. And but this time, India didn't lose any wickets. That was fine. Then the 21 false shots secured about 16 runs in 4.5 overs, not to mention a couple of lives with both Iyer and Kohli dropped on four. And that's a sign of how much luck, plays a part in a game, in a test match, that too, a high tension test match like this. And India, paid for every mistake early on, and they caught a couple of big breaks, and a score that should have been like maybe 38 for 5 in the 14th, and the 14th over was 91 for 3 in the 26th over. And then Rabada strikes. This He was a genius in this match. Like, he knew exactly how to get Rohit Sharma out. By now, most of us know how that Rohit Sharma loves his pull shot and loves hooking one. And there's enough Star Sports replays or broadcaster replays that happen over and over again that kind of just tell us a lot more about, maybe Virat Kohli a lot more, but also Rohit Sharma and the shots they love and what they love to play. So, and also I'm just saying this casually, but they have their strategies as well, right? And but I think Rabada just planned this beautifully, scripted it where how it's supposed to go and executed it just like he planned. And there you go, we lost Rohit Sharma, pretty early on. Rabada even looked like he wanted to hit someone on the head, and it was pretty clear with all the bouncers and all the short balls, and that kind of worked. It worked, when Rabada had Rohit Sharma caught in the hook. Sorry, he even looked like he wanted to hit a few people on their heads with all those bouncers and short balls. I mean, it worked in Rohit's case, so I guess that's a very good yield to the hard work of throwing those bouncers and short balls. Now, the short balls mauled India for most part of the innings. It seemed like it was a conscious effort from South Africa's end to not bowl, full length balls. But and the bounces looked really tasty. Like, it was like I was watching or I was experiencing a light tennis ball or a tennis ball being bounced on tar pitches or on the local grounds, I guess. But when they did resort to good length balls, by then it was mostly all over. But the teammates did a good job. Rabada was aiming at the top of the stumps, and his discipline was so good that he ended, a 68 run partnership with Iyer's wicket immediately after lunch, and messed with Kohli in a way that nobody else was able to do so. And his delivery to Iyer, did keep low, and the delivery to Kohli was like one of those genius moves. And it's like he planned these well beforehand, and the execution was nothing short of a dream. He said something interesting, about Kohli's dismissal. I'm just quoting him. He's a fantastic player. Um, that when you play against him, you really have to be on. I'm just glad I got a faint edge. Kohli did leave 25 of 64 balls that he faced. And I think apart from Rahul, he was the only one who was in that whole test mindset without risking his wicket. But Rabada, angled that full length ball into off stump. Kohli came forward to meet it, and it pitched and seamed away enough to beat the middle of the bat, but not enough to beat the edge. It was the whole team's bowling effort, I think, came together really well. Marco Jansen, Coetzee, Berger, everyone contributed. In fact, if it wasn't for the drops, I guess they would have bundled India for a much lesser score. Like, I think Dezorzi dropped Kohli, Jansen dropped Iyer. I couldn't imagine the tragedy that could have befallen the Indian team if those were taken. And so there are some new bowlers and new players in both teams. Like some of them debut and sometimes some of them debutants and some of them visiting South Africa for the first time from the Indian team. And for the South Africa, it was this Nantre Berger, the new bowler. Um, he looked really great. Like there was a beautiful contest between him and Jaswal. Jaswal looked really good initially. He remembers. I think I remember him whacking one in the last ball of Marco Jansen. Hit a four, and then Berger comes in and takes his debut wicket in Tests, and it's Jaswal, and then in no time Gill gloved another one to the keeper again. So that's quite an impressive new bowler for South Africa now. Overall, the pitch was fun. The uneven bounces were very prevalent, which helped, I think, Proteus in this case. However, I hope this uneven pitch bounces do not continue for long. Otherwise, there could be a problem. Okay, and now just going into day two, apart from KL Rahul's century and maybe Markram's wicket, there was not a lot going in India's favor. Like KL Rahul's innings, probably won't be remembered. His century probably won't be remembered because India might lose this. So it'll be a losing effort century. But however, I think it was a fantastic century. I remember him, he had like this pristine stroke play, just like Virat Kohli's. And at the same time, he was, a lot of people said that he looked a little bit like Ricky Ponting in this match, where he, pulling and hooking some balls. So, yeah, and in fact, the sixes that he hit on both sides, both square and offside, were kind of showstoppers. KL Rahul scored 200s in South Africa. Both the hundreds came at the Centurion Supersport Park, and this makes him the first visiting batter to score more than one Test century at the Centurion Park. Now, number of Indian batters that have more than one Test hundred in South Africa include Sachin Tendulkar, who has five, of course. Virat Kohli has two, and now KL Rahul has two. All said and done, the player of the day has to be Dean Elgar and his beautiful old school Test innings, which he converted into a fairy tale 100, and surprisingly his first one at the Centurion, his home ground. And he just played a sublime knock. Like you cannot deny that. And he got some really good support from his teammates like Dezorzi. I think they put up a 93-run partnership. David Bedingham was with him and he played a classy knock. He got a 50 on a debut, but that Siraj's delivery just knocked that middle stump off. That's a fantastic delivery again. So, so David Bellingham seems like he doesn't move too much on the crease. He's like the what's that guy? Shivam Mavi? Was that him? The Chennai Super Kings player who actually doesn't have too much footwork as well. But anyway, I did expect South Africa to play hard and outperform, India. But this was they outperformed India by miles. They scored like what 256 for five at stumps. Dean Elgar, making a large chunk of their their score. And that's pretty much day two. And then day three is where the disaster struck the subcontinent champions. It seemed like, it seemed like Bumrah got Jansen's wicket early, but there was a bit of bad luck there. But at the same time, I feel like Jansen is now looking like an all-rounder, and less than just a bowler. In fact, his contribution in the World Cup was fantastic with the bat. And now he comes in and, knocks this wonderful 50, supporting a veteran on the crease. And they both rake like some of these big scores. So it's the batters just didn't stop punishing the Indian bowlers. At some point, I think Kohli was pulling off a Stuart Broad, but you can never be Stuart Broad. He's the evil villain. You can never be Stuart Broad. But he did try to swap those bails, and nothing really happened, I guess. But yeah, um, Shardul got a break, and got the prized wicket of Dean Elgar, and that's why we call him Lord Thakur. That he just comes in and just does this magic. Shubman Gill missed two chances. The day would have looked very, very different if we had at least caught one of those. It was, and then we saw these, beautiful gestures from Jasprit Bumrah when he dismissed Rabada. There was just a friendly nod from the frenemies, as they're calling them now. But it was again that magical delivery of Bumrah where you just flick off the off stump. And Jansen remained not out at the end of the day for 84. If Bavuma could have, stayed, came to the crease and stayed for like maybe 10 overs, Jansen could have easily gotten his 100. I don't understand this about Bavuma. He was unfit, when he was playing India in the semi-finals. He was struggling. He came in, contributed nothing. And the same thing here, he was just taken off the field very early on. It just seems unfair. Like, I don't know why. I thought, World Cup, you understand. Like, it's the World Cup, it's the semi-finals. You want to be there for your team. But man, I think the physios and the management need to be a little more careful because this position could be easily occupied by somebody else. And maybe they could have contributed a little more. At least they could have contributed to maybe Jansen's century, even if it was a bowler, right? But it kind of sucks that, Bavuma couldn't bat. And at the same time, it sucks that Jansen couldn't get his 100. Actually, Jansen missing his 100 hurts me more. I really would want to see a bowler get 100, that too against the Indian bowling attack. And India came into bat. It was repeat of the same script. They struggled with conditions, and Rabada's excellent line and length. Rohit Sharma was humiliated by that dismissal. Berger again gets Jaiswal, but this time with a touch of a glove. Kind of an unfortunate dismissal, but he's still out. Kohli and Gill looked really good at some point, and the sun was just bleakly shining over Centurion and was and also the Indian team. But then Jansen struck this time, and Shreyas did have that lifesaver, thanks to the drop at the slip. But he didn't survive too long, and that too at the hands of Jansen. He was a victim again. Um, the fantastic part was just Berger taking back-to-back wickets. One was KL Rahul couldn't perform in the second innings like his first innings. Kind of excusable, but what was unexcusable was Ashwin getting out like that. We really expected. The reason we all love Ashwin is that he also contributes with the bat, and when he does that, it's, even now it surprises us, but he can actually bat. So him not being able to bat, at his potential was kind of disappointing. Kohli gets his determined 50, but then wickets fall, to including Thakur, Bumrah, Siraj, and that Bumrah's dismissal again seemed completely unnecessary. That second run was just not needed. Kohli, my man, what are you doing? He did the same to Sky in the World Cup. At least that time, he stood up and he played his part even after Sky departed. But this time actually there was nobody else to back him up. It was kind of unfortunate. Like you couldn't expect anything else from the tailenders, but that was I mean, any run out in a test match is just it just feels unfair. So yes, I do wish that there was somebody else sticking on with Kohli, but that didn't happen. And that's it. India suffered a humiliating loss. I know for the fact that that 36 all out is still our worst, but this has to be the worst in South Africa. Losing by an innings, man, come on. But I guess we have to wait and see if they are going to redeem themselves in Test 2. So that's it for Test 1. I hope you all enjoyed it. See you later.